Well, it's Wednesday, and you all know what that means. As you know, we have WWE Evolve, of course, featuring many matches, but also we have a contract signing for the Men's Evolve Championship. But the main event features, of course, Callie Armstrong defends the Women's Evolve Championship against someone who we all know has been well recognized in the wrestling world, both as a great champion, but also coming from a very royal family in the wrestling business. We're talking about Natalya. So we'll see how things will end there. And then, of course, we have AEW Dynamite. As you all know, we are now on the way to All In. This is their go home show before then. So a lot of things will happen. For example, we have the number two spot, of course, of the Women's Casino Gauntlet. Who will be joining Chris Statlander? That is an obvious question. I think many of us are kind of curious to see. And then, of course, as you probably know, anything could happen. Jon Moxley is determined to dismantle Hangman Adam Page before All In. But can he succeed? Well, that is something we will pay attention very, very closely. And then, as always, we'll cap up our episode, as usual, with some news updates that give you guys updates on what's been happening in the world of wrestling, such as what events the promotions are thrown out, who's booked, what matches are set, including developments that are happening in the world of wrestling as we speak. So, let's get ready for another episode of the Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Hey everyone, welcome to the Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, TNA, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J-Rod here. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. This is a channel we do a lot of pro wrestling reviews from various promotions, not only here in the United States, but also in Japan, Mexico, Canada, Europe, the UK. Anywhere in the world, pro wrestling is not as big, but it continues to grow. We also, of course, do discussion videos, talk about various topics such as the wrestlers themselves, the promotions, factions, storylines, whatever we want to talk about. We also, of course, do more news updates. If certain information was unable to be on this episode, we can either put it on the next one or on a separate video by itself. We also, of course, do real-timing news updates to keep you guys on alert if something has happened in the world of wrestling that needs to be addressed ASAP. We also, of course, got to do Nagi Sayaka Watch and various other cool wrestling content as well. So if you like what you see, please subscribe to us. So click on that subscribe button. You'll be getting a lot of daily reviews and other cool wrestling content as well. But if you like this episode, please give us a like on the like button or nice comments in the description down below. Now, enough with the yapping. Let's get to it. So, let's begin, of course, as always, with WWE Evolved. Okay, WWE Evolve. We opened up with singles action. We have, of course, Timothy Thatcher taking on Keanu Carver. Now, as you all know, recently, Keanu Carver has not been in a good mood for the last couple of weeks due to the fact that he did not win the Men's Evolve Championship. So, of course, he's been causing a lot of rampage, what's been happening. So, Timothy Thatcher stepped up that he's going to teach him a lesson because recently Carver has decided to disrespect the WWE ID Prospect Program. So Thatcher did not take that kindly. Now, of course, Thatcher, as we all know, he's an excellent technical wrestler, and of course, a guy you know that he can rip you apart. But however, Carver decided to put a little hurt on him in any way possible. But however, he decided to take it a little too far when he decided to slam Thatcher right outside of the apron, but also disregard the referee's commands. So it led to a disqualification by Carver, losing the match giving the match over to Timothy Thatcher. So, however, we don't know how that's going to be. It took security guards and referees to pull him away from Thatcher, but we'll find out what happens down the road. Now, the Vanity Project, as you know, they've been happy with the results of what's been going on, claiming that they are the ones in control of Evolve. However, Stevie Turner, who, as you probably know, doesn't like them, but unfortunately, Stevie announced that there was going to be a contract signing for a match between Jackson Drake and Lince Dorado. Now, Jackson Drake thinks that he didn't deserve it, but he forgets he got pinned by Lince Dorado. So, by given right, he had the right, of course, to issue the challenge. And we'll see what happens. But, of course, Jordan Oyster, who stumbled upon them, was laughing because knowing that this is something that Jackson Drake cannot escape. But we'll get to that in a bit. Now, our next match, we have Chantel Monroe versus Masyn Holiday. As you know, Monroe has been trying to prove that she is, of course, a difference maker in the entire Evolve women's locker room. And that's exactly what she tried to do. But however, she was able to outmaneuver Holiday when she applied a knees to the face onto her. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. And then she made a claim in the post-match promo that she'll be gunning for the women's Evolve championship. But she's not the only one. So did Carly Rae, and of course the winner of LFG, Tyra May Steele. So basically, whoever walks out will be getting an opportunity to challenge, of course, Callie Armstrong. But we'll see what happens. Now, Chuy Martinez gave an update on what happened to Timothy Thatcher after the assault from Kiana Carver. However, of course, Stevie Turner tried to handle it, but apparently she had a lot in her plate. And then Sean Legacy, out of nowhere, continues, as you know, feeling that he still earned another opportunity for the Men's Evolve Championship. But however, Stevie was not having it until Tate Wilder decided to show up that he said he was ready to clear, trying to ruin, of course, Sean Legacy's moment. But things got a little crazy from there. But we'll get to that. Now, we go to the contract signing for the Evolve Men's Championship. Of course, Lince Dorado has been declared as the challenger, while Jackson Drake is the champion. And of course, you know, Lince Dorado did not take anything away from, of course, Jackson Drake. But however, when it comes to Project Vanity, that's a different story. So, of course, you know, Jackson Drake feels like he's tired of the same old crap, you know, where people like Lince Dorado, who is nothing but a has-been, to prove his point. But however, of course, there was a bit of a problem. Lince Dorado kind of told him that you did not read the fine print. It turns out that he signed the contract. Not only that he will be defending the Men's Evolve Championship, he also signed the contract indicating the Project Vanity are barred from ringside. So they're completely banned from being on his side. But also another clause was added to it, meaning that if there's any outside interference, it will result of disqualification and declaring, of course, Lince Dorado as the new Evolved Men's Champion. So this is something that I don't think Vanity Project predicted was going to happen, but it did. So, of course, Jackson Drake did not read the fine print, but she let it happen. Now, Kendall Gray and Carly Bravo, as you know, they're back talking again. Now, Kendall Gray was willing to admit that she did not know what really happened. I mean, she presumed that Zara Zacher was the attacker, but it turned out it wasn't her. And of course, Carly Bright being her usual self. But we'll see what happens with these ladies. Now, Chuy had another opportunity to talk to, of course, Lince Dorado, Sean Legacy. As you know, he is pissed about what's going on with Thatcher. And now he's coming for Kiana Carver. So we'll see where that goes from there. Now, our main event is the Women's Evolved Championship. Natalya makes her attempt for this belt against Callie Armstrong, who is our very first and inaugural champion. But the real question is, will Natalya prevail due to the fact of her experience? That's a good question. But Callie Armstrong has showed why she is at the top of the food chain in the Evolved's women locker room. And that's exactly what she did when she applied the Callie connection. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. But during the post-match, Callie Armstrong hugged Natalya and earning her respect, knowing that she is a strong wrestler. However, this is where things took a little interesting. Out of nowhere, Jin Tala attacked Callie Armstrong. And this is where, of course, the answers has been asking. It was Jin Tala who in fact attacked the other girls in the back. Danny Palmer, Carly Bright, Brinley Reese, all of them. She was responsible. Now, for something also, I want to add this to this review, and I never mentioned this in recent times when I did Evolve. When Gentala made her debut recently against Layla Diggs and the way she took her out with a submission move, a part of me was thinking, what if it was Gentala? It seems like the way she injured her wrestlers, everybody was crouching on her arm, and it looks like I was right. So basically, a part of me was thinking it was Gentala, but now it happened. Now the real question is, even though there are women out there who are gunning for this belt, who else is gunning? We know Gentala wants it badly, so we'll see what happens until then. But as of right now, we'll end things here with WWE Evolve and move on to our last and final review, AEW Dynamite. Okay, AEW Dynamite. Now, as I said before, this is the go home show before this Saturday in All In Texas, which is going to be very exciting. Now, we opened up, of course, with a bit of a face to face confrontation between both Mercedes Moné and Toni Storm. As you all know, Toni Storm will be defending, of course, the AEW Women's World Championship against Mercedes Moné, who in fact is the rightful winner due to the fact that she won the Women's Owen Hart Cup tournament. So this is their last thing what they have to say, but we'll see what happens once we get to All In. Now, Jon Moxley put out a video promo. As you know, he is doing whatever it takes to ensure Hangman Adam Page does not make it to All In. So we ask ourselves, should he be afraid of him? Should he be concerned? Well, there's the possibilities, but we'll just have to wait and see. Now, our first match of the night, we have Bandito and Brody King taking on, of course, members of the Don Callis family, more specifically Konosuke Takeshita and Kyle Fletcher. As you all probably are heard already or not, Konosuke Takeshita is the number one contender for the ROH World Championship. So this match will take place later on in Supercard of Honor. So that is something we will pay attention to at some point. But the real question is, who will walk out with the momentum? Well, this one turned out to be none other than, of course, Takeshita, when he applied a raging fire onto Bandito, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. So we'll see what happens until we get there. Now, we did see an interview, of course, with the Patriarchy and FTR. Now, as you know, Christian Cage is determined to win the AEW World Tag Team belts, and of course FTR is one of those teams that probably will get their hands on those belts soon enough, but they'll be teaming up together at some point. So we'll get to that. Now, Ricochet, he decided to go out in the match against Blake Christian. Blake Christian, as you know, was attacked recently by the Gates of Agony, who are now associates with, of course, Ricochet. But, of course, when it comes to Ricochet, he will have people by his side to ensure he wins this match. He had the Gates of Agony by their side. But in the end, it was, of course, Ricochet with the vertigo onto Blake Christian. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. Now, Renee Paquette conducts an interview with MJF and the Hurt Syndicate, knowing that MJF will be having a little thing called talkie-talkie. So basically, there's that. But however, this is where things got a little crazy. While the Hurt Syndicate went to their locker room, they just realized they were ransacked by none other than Jet Speed, a team that are also aiming for the AEW World Tag Team belts. But we'll see what happens. Now, MJF decided to, of course, have a little talkie-talk with Mark Briscoe, and that's how things turned out. However, of course, Briscoe was not an idiot. There is one weakness that, of course, that will definitely try to drive a wedge with, of course, Mark Briscoe, and that is his late brother, Jay Briscoe. And that's something that I'm sure Briscoe is determined to realize that could play out, which it did. And then, of course, the Hurt Syndicate showed up until they were attacked by Jet Speed, and just like that. But unfortunately, of course, the Hurt Syndicate were not just attacked by Jet Speed. So did the patriarchy. As you know, Christian Cage is sending a direct message to the Hurt Syndicate saying that they are determined to win the tag team belts at any cost. But they also might have injured Bobby Lashley. So we'll see what happens in All In when we get there. Now, our next match is a 4-way for the number 2 spot in the Casino Battle Royale. We have Mega Bane versus Tekla versus Queen Aminata versus Ty Mel. So, of course, anything could happen. Now, Chris Statlander, as you know, was in the front row watching who will be joining her. Now, of course, we assume there will be some alliances between Megan Bane and Tekla, but that did not happen too much because, of course, Megan Bane is no idiot. She knows that this means a lot to her, but not to mention when it comes to Tekla, well, things will go out of control. And then, of course, we did see Penelope Ford try to help, but Anna Jay decided to take matters in their own hands. But unfortunately, this match ended with Megan Bane successfully winning the match with a sit-down powerbomb on Queen Aminata, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, she's got the number 2 spot in the Casino Gauntlet women's Gauntlet match. So we'll see her with Megan Bane. With Chris Statlander. However, as soon as that's over, Renee Paquette decided to have a little interview with Tekla, and then of course Queen Aminata showed up. So all things have gone out of the hand. And Mark Briscoe, as you know, as you probably guessed, he figured that this thing with MJF was about to happen one way or another. But we'll stay tuned for that. Now our next match, we have Samoa Joe versus Wheeler Yuta. As you probably can guess, the Ops are now defending the AEW Trios titles against the Death Riders. So this is possibly a preview. But of course, no matter how tough Wheeler Yuta can be or cocky he thinks he is, well, he got choked out by Samoa Joe. And then out of nowhere, the Death Riders' personal mercenary gave Kid a tag. And then, of course, Hobbs and Shibata were too late. But however, they had to prepare themselves for the main event when they team up with Will Ospreay and Hangman Adam Page to deal with the Young Bucks and Claudia Castagnoli and John Moxley. So a lot of things were happening. But this match ended, of course, with the assault with the Bulldog choke on Shibata. But however, that things did not go well. Now, I mentioned this before. John Moxley is determined to dismantle Hangman Page before All In. And Mariah Shafir had, of course, 2 bags handed over to Nick and Matt. As you probably know, they want to ensure that they will not make it all the way to All In until Swerve Strickland showed up. As you know, he had something on his mind, and it turned out he had a crane to destroy the Bucks limo, and of course leaving the Bucks vulnerable, crying like little girls about the finance they have to went through to get this thing going. But in the end, of course, Swerve got his revenge by stomping both of them. And then, of course, Hangman had a little confrontation with the Death Riders and everybody else. So all hell broke loose. But we will see what happens when we get to All In. Now, I will put this, and I'll remind you later on today on this episode, that there is no, of course, collision on Saturday. We will have that on a Thursday instead. So stay tuned for that. But as of right now, let's move on to our last and final thing, news updates. Alright, so welcome to our news update. So this is going to be a bit of a short one. Now let's talk about our upcoming events. As you know, on July 11th, we have the Bosses of All Bosses in Dallas. We have Jonathan Gresham versus Man Like 3, so that's going to be a bit of a fun match. And then finally, this one was announced for House of Glory High Intensity on the 1st of August. It was announced that Ricochet will be in action to take on the Amazing Red. So that's going to be a fun match. So I can't wait. Now let's talk to some about our developments. Now, this is something I did not see coming, but Japanese promotion GLEAT has announced that Issei Onitsuka has officially left and retired from pro wrestling. Now, this is a very unusual thing, but unfortunately, this is what the statement they put out. So let me pull it up for all of you. Due to a confirmed contract violation, Onitsuka was suspended for 1 year, strip of his G Infinity and G Rush titles, and remove all of G Guma fan club chairman. Onitsuka later chose to retire effective immediately. GLEAT will seek permanent compensation and announce future title plans soon. The company emphasizes that this is not a criminal case and asks fans to retain from speculation. Now, you're probably wondering, what does this mean? He did something wrong that he was not supposed to do. Now, this is not a criminal act. This is an act of him violating his contract terms or whatever he did, and it resulted of him being suspended. But Onitsuka chose to, of course, um, screw it. I'm just retiring. I'm not gonna play by anybody's rules. So he was the G Infinity champion with Yamamura, but now that those titles are vacant, and now the G Rush titles also vacant, so we don't know what the plan is, but we'll see what happens. So we'll stay tuned for that. Now, as you know, we have the WWID championships for both the men's and women's, and this was mentioned on from their X account. WWE has confirmed that the first WWE championships will be crowned at GCW's ID Showcase on August 1st. Kylie Ray versus Zara Zacher versus Zeta Steel will be the first match of the Women's ID Championship. The Men's ID Championship match will be a singles bout with a competition to determine at July 19 House of Champions show. So it seems now that we have battle lines for that. So I'll give you guys any more updates on that front. But as of right now, I say we'll leave things as it is, and let's just call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. Coming up now, I did mention recently AEW Collision will not happen this Saturday due to the fact that we have the All in Texas taking place. So basically, set your reminders on that. By the time this video is out, you probably know what I mean. And then, of course, we have TNA and Ring of Honor. So the three priorities are those three shows: AEW Collision, Ring of Honor, and of course TNA. So we'll see how things will go from there. But as of right now, we'll leave things as it is. And I will say this, that I will see you guys in the next DWZ time, same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye, and have a nice day. Bang.